For the past few weeks, we've talked a lot about New Year's resolution failures, which I'm sure no one in this audience has ever failed on a New Year's resolution. No, of course not. I think mine usually lasts about 3 days. And we kind of talked about restitution success when failure occurs. What do you do with it? Such thoughts about resolutions and failures that will happen from them, it's very important to kind of contemplate that this time of the year. New year, new calendar, new you, or the possibility. We've talked about using the various encounters Jesus had with people throughout his life, and how these different things that also Israel encountered. We really can learn so much from these. We talked about how the resolution failures of Peter denying Jesus after saying he wouldn't. The Israelites saying that they would follow God, and then they absolutely did quite the opposite. And we kind of talked about what happens when you do fail. How do you handle that? I would almost say a better indicator of who you are as a human being isn't in your success, but it's in how you handle failure. Now, Peter encountering Jesus when he restored him, it's an amazing thing. I've said this for the last few weeks, and I really want you to let it set in. The way that Israel at Mount Sinai said, I'm going to follow God, and in the next breath, built an idol made out of gold, a golden calf. You can't betray God like that. God was literally right there at Mount Sinai. They saw him descend. Peter is staring right at Jesus and said, I'm never going to deny you. And then later that day, denies him. Says, I don't even know who that person is. You can't mess up like that. And yet, Jesus and God made sure to restore them, to give them restitution, which is an incredible thing, which is something we're supposed to be now extending to others. Because doing any sort of resolution, any goals, anything really in life, it's not easy. Picking the right thing and staying with it, and then when you fail, picking yourself back up and moving forward. I would definitely say that the patience is an important aspect of it. But I want to view it in maybe some different lights, some different aspects to try to highlight. Today we're going to really be talking about this encounter that Jesus had, as the scripture reading just read, this blind and deaf man. Now the patience demonstrated in many different parties really shows us a godly way of handling things that we encounter in life. Because patience should not be a character trait that you just aspire to, or something that you give lip service and you say, yes, it's good to be patient, and the next minute saying, what do you want from me? Patience should be a way of life. It should be intertwined with who you are as a human being. Now, I don't know about you. I am always in a haste to learn patience. Yes, irony intended with that statement. Isn't that what we all do in life? We rush to do one thing and then we rush to the next. We might even try to hurry up for resting. I gotta get my rested so that way I can get to my next task or my next activity that I have. How busy are we in today's world? Incredibly. Incredibly. And yet, these pressures of life make us feel like we need to keep hurrying, and we don't necessarily enjoy what's kind of going on. For me, and I'm sure no one can relate to what I'm about to say, I remember being in elementary school, and I focused on really one thing when I was in elementary school, and it wasn't just getting the day over with. No, it was the big summer break, right? Who remembers your summer breaks? How awesome was that? Anyone that is, not having summer breaks, oh man, you wish you could go back to that. I've been in the workforce for way too long now. I would love to have a few months off. So I would be there in school, just waiting for this next day to get over with, because I want to get to the summer because I have all these amazing things I want to do. I want to rollerblade. I want to hang out with friends. I want to relax. I want to play video games. Yeah, I just really don't want to be in school, even though I enjoy learning. Maybe even read some books. So I was just so focused, getting there, never really enjoying where I was. And then summertime comes around, and what do you think happened to me? I didn't end up doing the things I wanted to. I was so fractured in the different things that were pulling me all these different directions. I never found really fulfillment fully in anything I was doing in the summertime. And before you know it, school season starts again. And now all I could think about was that next summer, this time, would be different. Patience was not a part of who I was and trying to be now. Unlike me, King David actually did a much better job waiting for something amazing. In fact, there's nothing in my life that actually could compare to what King David had to deal with when it comes to a future activity. One, he wasn't originally called King David because he wasn't always a king. In fact, there was nothing about David's life that would indicate he was going to become king of Israel. We see this journey for him start off in 1 Samuel 16, 12 to 13. So he sent for him and had him brought in. He was glowing with health and had a fine appearance and handsome features. Then the Lord said, "Rise up and anoint him. This is the one." So Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the presence of his brothers. And from that day, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David. Samuel then went to Ramah. Imagine if that were you. You are a shepherd, which, by the way, was one of the worst and most looked down upon professions. You were a step above a tax collector and a prostitute, but not by much. You're the youngest in your family. There is nothing remarkable about you. And now this prophet of God says, you are going to be king of all Israel. Wow, that's some serious weight right there. That would be like the equivalent for me, that summer break. It's that thing of like that coming to be. I get to be completed. I get to be fulfilled. But obviously, summer break and becoming king, two very different activities. But similar principle, because it's something that you're looking forward to. It's something that you want more than anything. Who wouldn't want to be king or queen? Maybe not the responsibility aspect, but the royalty, the wealth, the power aspect, right? Don't we all want all the power without all the responsibilities? So this is what he was faced with. He's young when this happens to him. And as we see throughout the scripture reading, he had to wait a long time to become king, let alone king of all of united Israel. And so, what can happen in these moments when you have this promise, you have something that good could occur? What happens? Your focus becomes on that. I need to get this accomplished. Maybe it's, I can't wait to pay off this debt. Maybe it's, I can't wait to hang out with my friends. I can't wait to get that job promotion. I can't wait to, go see a musical or something. And your whole life then all of a sudden starts to revolve around whatever that activity is. And things get a little muddy. A little turmoil starts kicking in. You really can actually start becoming a worse person, not a better. Because now your right and wrong is defined by who's going to help me get to this goal and who's going to prevent me, which is not an actual moral scale. So this is what David had. He could have turned into that monster. I'm going to become king. God's promised it, so it's going to happen. And you know what? Why doesn't it happen? Why can't it happen now? Why not now? Well, he decided to choose color versus black and white. David had the patience to let God slowly bring Israel under his authority. Now, that's why the title was called Planting Patience. Because if you don't plant patience, you won't have the fruit of patience later to be able to eat from it. Because this is not an easy thing. So this event happens. David now will become a famous warrior. He will eventually have to survive Saul's jealous murder attempts. And then finally he would become crowned king. But not of Israel, of Judah. So he goes through all these different things. He shows patience. He could have killed Saul. He showed patience with Saul. He respected where Saul was. In 2 Samuel, verse 2, 10 through 11, Ishbosheth, son of Saul, was 40 years old when he became king of Israel, and he reigned 2 years. The tribe of Judah, however, remained loyal to David, because David was of the tribe of Judah. The length of time David was king in Hebron over Judah was 7 years and 6 months. David was about 30 years old when he became king of Judah. So it's very interesting. He's told he's going to be king. He has this King Saul who at first loves David and then absolutely hates him, tries to kill him. He goes through all these journeys. Saul now dies. He's thinking probably this is the time for me to become king of all of Israel. And it doesn't happen. One of Saul's children takes over the throne, but of Israel. So now the kingdom is divided, which once was united. And then you see, eventually, after that 7.5 years, he waited. He was patient. He could have taken his soldiers. Honestly, his soldiers and him, they were amazing warriors. They were legendary. They could have taken over Israel, but he waited on the Lord. See, a lot of times you might think inaction or action, and that's actually not the right question to ask yourself, is should I be active with this or inactive? It's what is the Lord's will? Because there's times when he's going to say sprint, and there's going to be a lot of times when he says walk. You'll get there, and you'll be ready for it. I like to think that this process that David was being taken through was because God was trying to get David ready. He was trying to humble him. He was trying to make it so that he would become a good king. Even if you're destined for something, if you get there too soon, you won't be ready and you will fail. An important thing to remember. So after all this, now David finally gets there. 2 Samuel, verse 5, 1 through 5. All the tribes of Israel came to David in Hebron and said, "We are your own flesh and blood. In the past, while Saul was king over us, you were the one who led Israel in their military campaigns. And the Lord said to you, you will be my shepherd. You will be shepherd of my people, and you will become their ruler." When all of the elders of Israel had come to King David at Hebron, the king made a covenant with them at Hebron before the Lord, and they anointed David king over all of Israel. David was 30 years old when he became king, and he reigned 40 years. He in Hebron had reigned over Judah 7 years and 6 months, and in Jerusalem he reigned over Israel and Judah 33 years. David knew his destiny, but it was imperative he not accelerate it. How many pressures do you have currently in life that you just want these problems solved, and you want them now? The Lord's saying, let me plant the seed of patience in your heart, so this crop of fruit will grow. What is patience? Fruit of the Spirit. How do you get fruit? You have to plant something first. It takes time for it to build, so it can actually be of use to you. Now, my wife came across this quote that actually kind of inspired this whole teaching. And it really kind of, I think, lays into the story with Jesus with this, the blind and the mute man. She found this quote that said, "The day that you plant the seed is not the day you will eat the fruit." That can be found at boldheart.com. It's this blog. And that particular passage talked about feeling discouraged. Because when you feel discouraged, that's when you want things the most to just be fixed. I need it fixed now. I need to be better. I need to be stronger. I need to be better looking. I need to be more famous. I need to be all these different things. But that verse, right, that quote really impacted me. It really got me thinking about the Lord. And the Lord led me to this passage in Mark. And the way Jesus healed this blind and this mute man, first of all, let's kind of get the disgusting and the bizarre things out of the way. He didn't always heal people the same way. In fact, in many ways, he always handled everything differently, but there's some similar principles there to how he actually goes about doing the healing. And so when you read over the scripture, you see about how, he puts his finger in his ear and he spits on his hand and then puts it onto his eyes, and he might be going, "Ew, gross." It's almost like you gave him like a dry, wet willy. Anyone ever got a wet willy before? They are not fun. My dad was nice enough to introduce me to the concept. It was actually well documented in that day that saliva was known for medicinal purposes. So for us, if I were to spit my hands and say, let me heal your vision here, you'd be like, "Get away from me, you nasty person," and then cover yourself and peer out. Back then, they were like, "Oh, you're trying to heal me." So this whole thing, this whole process, this person comes to Jesus, and Jesus then takes him aside Now think about it. This guy most likely was born deaf and mute. He'd probably been this way for a long time. You know what I talked about? You know, that activity that you want? Sometimes that activity is healing. You're dealing with an ailment. You're dealing with some pain, some suffering that just won't seem to go away. How about addiction? Let's throw addiction in there. Because we all have it. Some people say, oh, I'm not addicted to anything. I say, do you have a coffee every morning? They went, yeah, I drink a coffee. I was like, can you not have a cup of coffee? Yeah, but why would I do that? Then you might be addicted if you can't live without it. All these different afflictions, and you want them done now. So this guy, he finally sees someone. Not literally, but he knows this guy, this Jesus of Nazareth, he can heal. He can do it. I have faith. He's healed other people. So he finally gets there. Very similar to King David when he was anointed. All right, this is the real time. Something good's about to happen. And Jesus makes him wait. Pulls him aside. King David was actually not anointed the king originally by Samuel in front of all of Israel. It was off to the side. It was in front of his family. It was with loved ones. It was intimate. It was not about the show. It was about the substance. And so then Jesus then goes through this process to heal him. There are other times when Jesus said, your faith has healed you. Boom, healed. Sometimes it was quick. This time, it took some time. He went through this process. And I love the way the scripture says, at this, the man's ears were open and his tongue loosened. And he was able to speak plainly. He could now see, talk. All the senses were now enacted. How awesome would it be if all of us had our senses enacted? And I don't mean our physical ones. We may have eyes to see, but do we really see what is before us? We have ears, but do we really listen to the Lord? Do we listen to one another? We have the ability to speak, but do we actually say something that is worth other people's time to hear? This person was denied all these things, and the Lord reopened him. He gave him a new lease on life, something this person didn't deserve. But Jesus did it anyways. But he did it because of patience, through patience. And the same thing with David. If David just, the second he got that commission, if he just ran to Saul and said, I'm supposed to be king now, how do you think that would have gone? That man, when Jesus said, hey, let's go off here to the side. Imagine the man said, no, heal me now. Heal me now. Or when he started going through the process, he said, why are you doing this? Just tell me I'm healed. Or any of the people that were around him, they could have easily said that. You told all the people just go and be healed. They all had to demonstrate patience, which means they had to store it up first, so that way they could become whole. Being patient in God's timing for both King David and this deaf and mute man, they had to wait years. And you might say, oh, that's suffering. And yeah, it hurts. But when you think about when Jesus said the faith of a mustard seed, when he's saying a seed, he's saying there's a process. Because no one's ever taken a seed, put it down, and then instantly it grows. It takes time. It takes nurture. You have to plant it now and focus on it so you can enjoy it later. You cannot enjoy patience now. Beyond the irony of that statement, it's just not the way the world works. You have to open your heart to the seed of patience so you can reap its wonderful crops later. This is what the Lord has been trying to tell us for so long. Israel just wanted to rush through the desert. They wanted to get to the promised land. They didn't care about God on many levels. They just wanted to be taken care of. Did not have patience. You want to know one of the greatest examples of someone not having patience outside of my life? Adam and Eve. They have the tree of life. They have the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Which one did they choose? Tree of knowledge of good and evil. They were told by Lucifer, God's holding out. If you eat that, you will be like God, knowing good and evil. They wanted that knowledge without having the character to handle that knowledge. They wanted it now. You could almost say that the tree of life was in fact patience, because they should have waited for the Lord to give it. And our history of mankind would have been much different. And so for all of us right now, we all wish things could be different. Whether it's about yourself or the world. There are things that are broken that cannot be completed, or it's going to take some time. Look around. Think about the things that matter to you. Weight loss. How fast do you want weight loss? We want it fast. What happens when you lose weight fast? Incredibly unhealthy for your body. You won't feel good. You might be skinny, but you won't feel good. Think about when you try to get out of debt and maybe you use other loans to float by. You weren't patient. The best way to give yourself a pay raise, and you're not going to like what I'm going to say, spend less. You can give yourself an instant pay raise. You want something, you have to wait for it. And be present in the moment, so that way when you get it, you'll fully enjoy it. King David and this blind and mute man, they demonstrated this. And these aren't perfect people. If you found out, in fact, King David, I'll be honest with you, I'm one of his darkest critics. He did some amazing things in this particular. He did some horrible things. I bet that man, the mute and the deaf man, had some similar things as well. But yet the Lord said, I'm still going to raise you up. I'm still going to build something amazing in you. And when you think about the profession that Jesus chose, carpenter, he builds. How do you build? Slowly. It wasn't by coincidence that that happened to be his father's profession, and that was then his. And so when you're dealing with the different things in life, when you feel anger, when you feel frustrated over something, that means patience isn't in your heart. You're not letting God lead. You are letting your pain and your anger lead. You need to repent immediately of this. Otherwise, this will continue to dominate you. And what you don't understand is when you're letting your pain, your anger, your frustration to make you want to do things now. Do you know what you're doing to everyone around you? You're destroying them. You've become a hurricane, and you are blowing them over. And eventually, no one's going to want to be around you. Patient people want to be around. It's a joy. It's nice to see people get riled up and have a passion. But in a way, it doesn't really get anything truly good done. It just causes a ruckus. Methodical, slowly, partnership. This is what the Lord's trying to say. So we're thinking about having patience in our heart, planting it, let God kind of water it, nurture it, and grow it. This fruit of patience that will help us combat the fire of our desires. I really want to say that again. Patience will help us combat the fires of our desires. We got to do 3 things. And these are not going to be easy things. And these things are going to require you to be very conscious in the moment. Because when you don't have patience, what do? You just act. You do whatever feels good to you. And it never will end well for you or anyone around you. The first thing, you start to kind of feel this angst. And by the way, this was very self-convicting when the Lord was teaching me this, because patience is not something I'm good at. The first thing you start to feel is angst. Cease. First, just the negativity, the frustration. It starts to creep up in you. You cease. Do not think about it. Get your thoughts on something other than that negativity. The best thing, the only thing you should be focusing on, Jesus. When you focus on that negativity is all that you have. When you focus on the struggle is all that you have. You have no actual solution. It will consume you. You will dwell on it. You will become fixated on it. And anyone that is not trying to help you becomes your enemy. Cease. Refocus. After you cease, It will allow you to start to be calm. How much do we all want to be calm? Start to pull up that patience that you started planting. And if you didn't, now is a good time to start planting it. Ask God to quell the storm that rages in you. He doesn't promise the storm will stop raging. He promises to be with you through the storm. Cease first to be calm in that moment, even when the chaos is surrounding you. Jesus was asleep on a boat when the storm was raging and everyone was freaking out. Because Jesus is like, my Heavenly Father's got this. I'm going to focus on Him. I'm going to listen and do what He wants in that moment. Because that's the biggest thing. If you do what you want in the moment, what are you going to do? You're going to yell at that person. You're going to scream at that person. Lord says, I got a different way for you. Cease so to be calm. And the third thing, cheer. You might say, that's weird. Cheer? Being impatient, things are wrong? Yeah. The third thing that it will lead to, after you cease and you get calm, you will find cheer. Because instead of focusing on the problem and on the negative, you're going to let those things go. Just like Peter walking on the water, all the storm raging. When he focused on Jesus, he did not sink. The second he looked at the storm, he sunk. He lost his cheer, his joy of the Lord, his joy of life. See, the thing is, when you focus on the problem, it does one thing for you, and I'm an expert at this. The weight of the world comes down on top of you. You get suffocated by it. The Lord says, I will take your burdens if you give them to me. That's what that cheer is all about. Being cheerful amongst the storms. So cease. Be calm. And then find that cheer in life to be able to share that with others. Patience is more than just something to have. Let it be what you plant daily so you can enjoy that fruit and share that with others. When people cross you and people don't pay you back and people frustrate you, but you should not be giving them your anger. Give them your patience the way the Lord gives you His. Move slowly throughout this next year. View it differently. And remember, cease focusing on negativity. Be calm amongst the storms of life. And most importantly, let's be cheerful as God solves problems like He did for that blind man. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, not everyone here has given their life to you. Not everyone here trusts you. And that is both believers and unbelievers alike. How easy is it for us to get off of the path? How easy is it for us to try to struggle through and do things on our own? Lord, we are supposed to do things, but in your timetable. May the lessons and the patience of King David and the blind and the deaf man, may they be lessons for us, for how you slowly heal us, you slowly bring us to a place of stability. You teach us how to cease, how to be calm. And one thing that Christians should be known for is love and joy, cheerfulness. We should be the most positive people, but not ignoring the struggles of life, Lord. I ask for anyone that has not invited the Lord into their heart, they would invite this cheer in. They would invite your love in, Lord. They would realize they need you. And for those of you that are believers, they would renew their covenant with you, Lord. For no one is perfect. No one has achieved the actual goal. We will always fall short, but in your patience, you work with us so that way we can get there, Lord, which is amazing. What patience should be everything to us, Lord, so that we act and we move the way we should. Lord, thank you for never giving up on us, for always giving us an opportunity. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, worship team, come forward to bring us home with You Are My Strength.
The lyrics for You Are My Strength are included in your bulletin. It's on a separate lyric sheet. And may we all find, as life that although the many sources of strength in our lives, our greatest and truest source of strength is truly Jesus Christ. So let's all stand and